Jim Masterson is known all over the world for his equine massage technique through his books, clinics, certification courses, and YouTube videos. We are so fortunate to interview Jim to learn more about the Masterson Method. So Jim, you became interested in equine massage long about, what, 1987?
No, it was more 1998.
1998,
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah.
So how did that journey start for you?
Well, I've always done. I've had a horse as a kid, and we had horses as kids. I was around horses, but then I was away from horses for a long time, and I had a lot of different jobs. But at one point, I was between jobs, and my wife said there was a local hunter jumper barn in Fairfield where we lived, and the trainer needed a show groom to haul the horses with her to the shows and groom them at the shows.
Right?
And so Connie said, "Why don't you just go do that? Go to work for Val." And I said,
Yeah.
"Sure." So I went to work for her, and when I was at these shows, and that was all new to me, hunter jumper show world, but I would watch the other therapists working on the horses, like chiropractors or equine massage therapists, and I noticed these subtle changes in the horse's behavior as they were working on them, like the eye would blink, or a change of breathing, or yawning, and I saw there was a correlation between what the horses were doing and what they were doing.
Yeah.
And so that's what interested me. I never was really interested in equine massage or any kind of massage of any type, but that really, the horse's behavior, just observing it, was what interested me. So I started experimenting with it, and just putting two and two together and following what the horse said, and then it turned into this method of body work where the horse, you end up working with the horse to release the tension, and the horse's
Yes.
nervous system is releasing the tension,
Yes.
and that makes it really effective, but it also makes it really, it made it interesting for me. It wasn't about learning muscles and what to do with them. It was about what's the horse doing while I'm doing something to the horse. And that's how I got started, and eventually started working on our barn's horses, and then I started working on other barn's horses, and then eventually I just was working on horses all the time.
Yeah. So you've said that your method, the Masterson method, can be done on any horse or mule,
Uh-huh.
and anyone can do it. Does that make it similar to human massage?
It's different in the sense that you don't have to really start by knowing a lot of anatomy or really what to do. You just learn a few basic techniques, and you learn how to read the horse. And you learn what levels of pressure to start with, or non-pressure, because as it turns out, when you put pressure on the horse's nervous system braces against it. And when you back off on the pressure, the horse's nervous system releases it, and he'll tell you with visual behavioral changes. So
That is surprising, because when I was reading about you before this interview, you were talking about very light pressure, and you wouldn't think that on a
you
1,000
wouldn't think that.
pound
That's
animal.
what's different about this, because it's counterintuitive, and but that's what makes it work, and that's what makes it easy to learn. So anybody can learn how to work on their own horse with some very simple basic techniques that we have on our YouTube channel and our website, that just try these and see if they work. If you want to get really serious about it, we have well, you can do a weekend clinic, and then you go on to if you want to learn more, we have a 5-day advanced course, and then we have a certification process for people that want to become certified in this. And so that's a little more involved, but anybody can start doing this on their horse and get good results.
You talk about reading the horse. You were mentioning the eye blinking, the licking, and things like that. But also, your method has the bladder meridian technique, and there's 4 stages in that, and I found that super interesting too.
Yeah. We were at a horse show in Estes Park, Colorado, and the trainer hired these 2 ladies to massage our horses, and they started with they called the bladder meridian, going down the bladder meridian, which is a Chinese medicine meridian. It kind of follows the top line, starts at the pole, so it's easy to follow, just along the side of the top line of the horse down to the hind leg. And they would do this to relax the horse, which it did a really good job of relaxing the horse. But that's when I first, early on, I noticed, as they were going along, the horse would blink, his eye would twitch at some point.
Right.
And I saw there was a connection there. So that was one of the things that made that connection for me.
Yeah.
And when I experimented, and so I'm going down this line, and I watch the horse's eye, and he blinks. So was that me, or was that him just blinking? So I go over again, and the exact same spot he blinks again. So there's a correlation, right, between what
Yeah.
he's doing, I'm doing. So I wasn't trained to massage it or anything. So I just sat there really lightly, and I realized if I softened my hand, he blinked even more rather than pushing on it. So I just waited, and after about 30 seconds, the horse would drop its head and start licking and chewing and relaxing from one leg to the other. So he was releasing tension just from me keeping his attention on that spot. So that was the eye opener for me, and that introduced me to how subtle the horse's nervous system is and how little pressure you need to get them to release tension.
That is surprising. I think probably in your certification course, that is the most interesting to people. Like you said, they can do their own horses,
Mhm.
or it's getting certified in your method to go on.
Yeah, there are more techniques that involve movement in a relaxed state, not
Mhm.
movement in a tense state. So, you know there are a lot. I mean, there are lots of techniques we use on the horse, but there's those really light, that search response and stay with it till you get the release techniques, and then there are movement techniques that involve movement in a relaxed state that release even more tension. So.
And I'm looking forward to seeing some of that,
Mhm.
because you've also said that you work with the animal, and that there's no time frame involved, because they can't you can't rush it.
You're on their clock.
You're on their
Yeah.
clock,
Mhm.
exactly. Yeah,
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 you're
yeah.
working with them in that sense.
And do you know when you can start? You're touching the animal, you're doing some movement with it, and
Mhm.
how do you know? Okay, now I can start where it's bothering the horse, or.
Yeah. Well, when you first do that bladder meridian technique, the horse will tell you where he's holding tension,
Mhm.
in his body, and you do
Mhm.
both sides, and so that gives you a sense of when to start, where to start. But
Yeah.
um, also, over the years, I've learned where most horses, like a normal person, we're right-handed, so we might develop more tension on the right than the left.
Oh,
So horses are
yeah.
similar in my experience, but it's on a diagonal. So if a few things to look at and check, and then it tells you, well, I should start here on this horse, or I should start here on this horse. But you want to start where it's easiest for the horse, not where the problem is. You want to start on the
Okay.
easier side, for example. So
Yeah.
you have a little guidance, but really you can start anywhere on the horse, and he'll let you know if that's too much for him. He'll let you know. Then you go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So.
When I read your resume, I mean, you've traveled and been the equine massage therapist for some of the top equestrians in the world,
Mhm.
on the USEF endurance
Uh-huh.
team, Pan American Games,
Mhm.
Nations Cup. I could go on and on and
Mhm.
on.
Yeah.
What is the difference? Is there a difference between massaging a top athlete? I mean, I
Mhm.
look at those horses
Uh-huh.
as top
Yeah.
athletes. They're
Mhm.
fit,
Yeah.
like LeBron
Mhm.
James.
Right. Yeah. I'm
You
sure
know,
he gets body work, and
yeah,
yeah, he doesn't just finish the game and then
right.
you know
I
go lay
think
on the
that,
couch.
yeah, that is a part of top
Yeah.
athletes. So, what is the difference? Is there a difference between working with that kind of equine athlete versus the mules you're seeing today,
Oh
or
yeah,
some
yeah.
of your
There
clients?
is. They work hard, and the thing about a horse is that when they start to develop tension or pain or discomfort in their body, they can't tell us. So they just cover it up and keep going. So you have to learn how to read them to find out where it is. And whereas a human can say, "Oh, I'm aching here, so maybe I better go get taken care of." The horse that can't do that, just it's not wired to do that. So the only time they can tell you is by through their behavior or performance, right? Either they can't pick up one can or lead, or they start bucking over the jump, or they start misbehaving, and often we interpret it as a training issue or a behavioral issue, and it's really
Right.
often there's a physiological component to it. So that's kind of what's neat about this method is you're asking the horse where they're holding tension in a way they can answer, and you ask by not putting pressure on. You ask by staying light, so that they can't. They actually, when you're doing that bladder meridian, you see that response, such as a blink. It's because you're not putting pressure, so they can't block it out. So
Yeah.
if you're putting pressure on, then they can block it out, and you
Right.
don't find it. So it's really
Right.
counterintuitive. So I figured out early on people want to learn to do this because it's so interactive with horse, and
Yeah.
that's why we have horses.
Yeah.
So it's easy to do, and it's interactive with the horse, and you don't need a lot of strength, and you don't need to start with a lot of anatomy. You don't. You just ask the horse. So.
Well, what I loved when I was learning more about you was how available your method is to people
Mhm.
through your books,
Mhm.
clinics, certification, YouTube
Yeah.
videos. it's out there for
Yeah.
people to discover and do for
Discover
themselves.
and try. Yeah, just try it
Yeah.
and see if you like it and you get results. Then if you want to learn more, we have more. So,
Good. Thank you so much,
yeah,
Jim. That's
you're welcome.
great. Thank you. If you like what you see, please support Equine VIP Horse Shampoo and Conditioner so we can keep bringing you interesting videos and interviews.